Are you ready, Dr. Gordon?
Give me one second.
Okay. Let you finish what you're doing. But yeah, I've been kind of studying it off and on. And I've been taking a couple of little courses on it
Yeah.
and different stuff. But you always tend to let me see, is it going? Is this one? Oh yeah, it's going. Destiny, go ahead and okay. Just introductions. I always got to introduce my book. I've been selling a lot of my books online. I'm Dr. Shawnette, uh, licensed professional counselor supervisor. I have my new book out when it's been out for a minute. I actually been selling a lot of my books and it's been helping people a lot. A CEU journal for relationships and marriages. I break down a lot of the most important concepts um, that I believe are important, and I put them in here. And then I kind of ask people what are they going to do about it once they hear it. Read one little quick one. Um, Many times, if people assume if I have something left, then I will give that time to my relationship. This time of thinking is neglectful to your relationship. Like if I have a little something left, I'll give it to my relationship. Relationships need physical time, physical presence, emotional emotional availability, a lot of stuff. So it's not just that if you got a few minutes left, you're going to give it to your relationship. That is not okay. But anyway, that's just something from my book. Um, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Darren, Dr. Garner.
Yeah, because last time we could barely hear you.
You can't hear me on the thing?
No, last time we could barely hear you.
Hey,
There you go.
I'm Dr. Garner, and
Y'all come a little close.
I am I'm a clinical social worker, right? And just I practice from different perspectives of clinical social work. So I do have a private practice, but like now we're trying to kind of get some group work done. So trying to get some men groups, me in terms of various topics from substance abuse to trauma, just trying to get, different people to kind of come in and kind of address some of that stuff. So that's what I kind of focus on, like help, generational trauma, right? Generational trauma, trying to break the cycle of generational trauma, especially in African Americans. So, um, yeah. So.
Okay. All right. Dr. Rocco.
Yes, my name is Dr. Anthony Rocco. I do a lot of counseling, most particularly substance use disorders, alcoholism, and also trauma.
Okay. Okay. Any interesting things that you might have experienced this week that might have been a question or thought that you might want to bring today? Anything that happened to you that didn't have to happen this week, but that you might want to just bring.
Mm.
Well, one of the things I'm working on is about working with the community, uh, especially working with the community, especially the black community,
Okay.
and in terms of wellness,
Okay.
and, you know, kind of stuff,
You
and
said
also
wellness.
wellness and also resilience.
Okay.
You know, so
Can you tell me a little bit about that? What about wellness? Tell me about what does wellness mean?
wellness it means a lot of stuff. When people talk about wellness, they're thinking about just I probably health, going to the gym and all that kind of exercises. But wellness, uh, it's more than that. It can also be psychological wellness, and other aspect of lives that needs to be taken care of in order to be, um, I would say, in order to be whole. And
Wholeness. Okay. That whole body health.
Whole body, mind, soul, spiritual, so that's wellness.
Okay. And then what resiliency? What does resiliency mean for you?
Resilience is, I share with a lot of people about what resilience is. We all go through things in life,
Uh-huh.
and how we were able to overcome that, build resilience.
Okay.
You build, the strength, to say, what, if this happens again, if something similar happens, or if any adversity happens, at least I'm equipped. So I have the skill to
Okay.
deal with
To
it,
come back.
to come back with, and go, go through it. Because a lot of times, people go through the same, two people might go through the same thing. One might be able to overcome, and the other person can be devastated about, the experience, not building resilience. You know,
Okay. That ability to snap back.
ability to snap back, to be able to overcome whatever adversity. Because in life, we are going to face adversity.
For sure. No way
There's
out of it.
no way out of it. So building resilience, psychological resilience, physical resilience, just like an athlete, they hurt, but they just keep doing,
Yeah.
building that physical resilience, strength, I would say.
Right.
In that way.
Building their body for the next time.
For the next time.
Building up the strength for the next time. Okay. What do you say about resiliency and wellness? Wellness and resiliency, or either one?
I will answer. I'm gonna answer that, but I do
Okay.
want to go to where you talked about earlier. You said what's like like a common theme for
Yeah.
the week for me, right?
Okay.
And one of the common themes, like through therapy, like having a few sessions, looking at some research that I was looking at, what I mean, kind of teaching some classes, the importance of self control throughout life.
Okay.
Like, man, like the research showed that most kids, like teenagers who got self control, they avoid delinquency and
Okay.
have self control. It allows you, like you was talking about earlier, you got to be self controlled, not to cheat, right? You know what I
Right.
mean? You was kind of talking earlier
Yeah.
how important self control is in your life. It's just, what I mean? And that's one of those indicators of, hey, if I can develop some self control throughout my life will be successful, right? You know
Okay.
what I mean? Like, I can go to school, I can get my homework in, I can get a job, I can start a business, I can be disciplined to get to my business, or I can be disciplined enough to get to my job, in terms of that self control, how
Right.
it propels you in life. So
Right.
that's one common thing. Then you talked about like wellness and resilience. I think we kind of one time we talked about wellness and me thinking it being holistic. Wellness is so holistic, but then resilience is like I think I think in terms of we struggle with resilience sometimes, but we are resilient people though, right?
Yeah, definitely.
We are resilient people
They
because
say if you want to see how something can be done, ask a black
yeah,
woman. When
and
I
that
say a
and
black woman or a black
but
man,
just kind
but
of like throughout, like you know what I mean, like we was kind of ball,
right.
Getting on ships, being in slave castles for 60, years in slave castles, and they shipping you across the seas, and you
Right.
chained up, and you still able to kind of get over here, get different places throughout the African diaspora, and still kind of flourish a little bit.
Right.
After that kills generations of people, right? That
Right.
kills them, kill out their race, and we was able to kind of survive that, right? You
Right.
know what I mean?
Just
So
even knowing our
just
history, that you have the history to bounce back.
you
We've been
do,
bouncing
right?
back for years.
All our life, you know what I mean? So, but like, again, they try to stop us from teaching that kind of stuff
Right.
because, what I'm saying? But that's the only way, what I mean? So we go be, that evoking and empowerment and resilience. I think it comes from some of that sometimes, right? Just
Right.
understanding, hey, we got resilient people. Not only that, we got people who were kings. They was
Right.
for real, right? You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
Gold. You know what I
So
mean? Had, festivals, you know what I mean? I remember like spending a couple of weeks in Ghana and just like the festivals, it's just like, and they paint this negative picture. It's all slavery, right? We pick
right,
up a
right. All the
seven,
bad
we
parts.
pick up a seventh grade book, and that's the first thing kids read. I was a slave in America. I was a
Right.
slave. You know what I mean? Just so it kind of kills your self esteem.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's hard to bounce back from that. So we gotta, I think, in terms of resiliency, we gotta understand our historical trauma, and we gotta understand the historical resilience with that trauma.
I really like that because that's what I've been working on. I was telling you for the last 2 weeks. is how trauma affects relationships, and it's the belief system too.
Yeah,
It's
correct.
the belief system, and so if we focus on the resiliency instead of how we were enslaved and how we were, you know, things were taken from us, but what was given to us? What did we? How did we strive? And what abilities did the abilities that we learned how to make it through, and abilities that we learn how to be optimistic even in pessimistic situations, is that if we can take that from things and still expect a lot out of ourselves, expect that resiliency, it's that's the way through trauma. Actually, it's that even though people have told you not to expect, it's still expect. Resetting your expectations, resetting that level of trust that you can make it through, starting with yourself, with God, and with yourself. With I know I have God there, but I know I have the ability. My whole generation of people before me, they made it through. They rolled in the mud if they had to, and they still made it, and
Correct.
they came together. And so we
Correct.
do have that ability to come together.
Yeah.
But it's that we have, I think, the expectations. We let Because we do look at the slavery part, we do look at the
Yeah.
negative parts. Our expectations of ourselves and others becomes diminished.
Yeah.
Becomes limited, and becomes our trust is broken.
Yeah. True. True. But I mean, I think not looking at it, but I think that has a part in like what they, in terms of the European strategy, right? That's
Yeah.
their strategy for us to distrust each other, right? That's part of our strategy. But if we look at, our ancestors, they trusted each other,
They
right?
made it by sticking together.
They trusted each other, like they had no choice. But like, so we get a few creature comforts, and and we lose trust, and stuff do go on, but we lose trust. We become slaves to material things, and you know what I mean, and that becomes that idea, right? That capitalism. We become slaves to that, and once you're in capitalism, you'll do anything, right? You know
Right,
what I
just to
mean?
get the
Yeah,
money.
just to get the money, right? And get, what I'm saying, so like I think,
Instead of getting the relationships
yeah,
with
true.
people,
You're right, but
which will get you money. I'm just saying, because if you pool it together, you're going to have more
true,
anyway.
true,
But instead of us focusing on those relationships, we just focus on the individuality. I need to get this, and I need to be on top.
correct.
Instead of if we
But
grow as a community, that's like
yeah,
you can't even get through that because
yeah,
it's a community. And we knew that during those slavery times. We did know that it took pooling together.
yeah, true.
You know what I'm saying?
That's true, and I noticed that, like, in what I mean, like I done had like businesses, and when you try to do a business on your own, how draining that
Yeah.
is, man.
You can't come do so much.
And then when you partner and how it flows, right? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just when you can partner and have relationships with people, business flow and you do well and you prosper. But when we got that distrust, we do not go into business with each other. We are scared of each other in terms of us black people. So
Well, a lot of times we scared of somebody getting it before the other one too. Like they gonna get it before me, or they gonna get more than me. We don't look at it like I see now that if you, as a business person, if you really want to be big, you cannot do it individually. You have to do that as a group.
Always gonna take some years off your life.
Right.
The amount of
Right. You
effort.
too tired by the time you do
Yeah.
it, you dead.
Oh,
Look,
you're right.
you
You
get
know
it, you
what I mean?
dead.
It's gonna take some years off your life. You know what I
And
mean?
you gotta allocate. You gotta be able
definitely.
to collaborate.
True.
And some of that's one thing, when I was learning about trauma, and one big thing I was learning is the inability to collaborate, because the inability to regulate your emotions,
Yeah.
like what you was talking to at first.
Yeah.
About at first, it's like if you don't have the ability to regulate your emotions, you will not be able to collaborate, because you're so sensitive to every little thing that shows a person ain't in it. It's just one thing you do, I think, oh, he ain't in this for us.
Yeah.
You're expecting perfection. You're all or nothing thinking. You like
Correct.
one thing you do wrong, and then I'm like, he out.
Catastrophe.
Right.
Spiral. I'll be saying the spiral.
Right. Those are trauma responses.
Yeah,
0 to 100. You go 0 to 100. And you like, you thinking to yourself later, like, I didn't have to throw that.
Nah.
I didn't have to get up and throw them boxes over there.
And then like this guy this week, he was like, man, I responded. He was like married, and his wife like go to therapy because you know what I mean. Like he was like, man, I just took out of control. But it wasn't even it wasn't even the issue with him and his wife. He was dealing with some internal stuff
Yeah.
that had him on edges like that, where
Right.
you in your wife's face and you know what I mean, like, and so like you gotta be that self control, but go address the trauma. Part of being self control is addressing the trauma.
Right.
Because the trauma is where the triggers come from. It
Right.
triggers you, right? So
Right.
you gotta go address the trauma so you can address the triggers. Then you get coping mechanisms to be under self control.
Right.
Right. You know, but you gotta go address the trauma. It ain't going nowhere.
Right. But one thing about it, when you know that you are 0 to 100, and you can look back and say that was an overreaction.
Yeah, correct.
Super sensitivity is most of the time it's a trauma. It's a response to trauma. It's something that else that's going on with you beyond what just happened that day. You blame it. You make me feel.
Correct.
You make me feel. No, they may have done something,
yeah.
but they didn't do the whole. They didn't make you go drag somebody down the street. They didn't make you put somebody in a chokehold. You know what I'm saying? They didn't make you leave the house and pack all your clothes and move out. The response, when you see that the response is bigger than what it should be, you already know that you're dealing with trauma. Yeah. And a lot of times for that, you do need to go to therapy and connect with another person.
Correct.
And then I talk about therapy a lot to people, and it's not because I have a personal thing in it, because y'all can go to therapy for one of these, but I mean to one with Dr. Gardner or Rocco, but if you know me personally, I can't do therapy with you anyway because it's unethical. But I do want you to go to therapy with somebody. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But I can't do therapy with people who I know. I can do psychoeducation. I can sell you my book. I can have a conversation with you, but I can't actually do therapy with you because it's unethical if I know you personally. Yeah. But I do want you to go to therapy because I just want us as a person to be a lot more healed than we are. And I really believe we can do better when there's people who, like us, who study all day to help you live your best life, be your best. You connect. Even the Bible tells you, they say 2 or more together. You know, that's talking about praying, I believe. But 2 or more together, I mean, it's so much bigger because you can get exploration. You can get greater exploration. You can get greater understanding. You can get someone reflecting back to you what we see. And then when you do that, you can reach where you're trying to reach. Yeah. Right. So what do you say trauma is? When you say, is there any way to explain trauma, or how do you know if you see trauma or feel trauma? How does a person know that? Some of the signs that they might be experiencing some trauma.
I think like the heightened trigger, going back to like I mentioned earlier, like the heightened triggers, right? Yeah. You got heightened triggers in terms of your over response to stuff, right? Yeah. But like, I think it starts early though, like, what you saw, in terms of the pictures or your developmental life and in the interactions you had as you developed throughout life, and the negative stuff that you saw that all kind of went with that, right? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, all the negative stuff that went with the interactions it could be from some as starting at birth, right? Because I in the past I used to do like mitigation work, right, for death row clients. And we'll go back all the way to birth to see whether it was a brain injury. Since people on death row, right? We're trying to see what caused them to commit those heinous crimes. Yeah. So it could be you dropped a baby on the head when he was 1 year old. Yeah. That's trauma, right? You know what I mean? Like, so in terms of that, they could have some cognitive stuff to come from that. Right. It can be 3 years old, a car accident, or it could be domestic violence in the family as somebody grows up through trauma. Right. It could be something like, your dad said he coming to pick you up, but he don't come to pick you up, right? You got your book sack, you got your book, your backpack waiting on him, you know what I mean, and stuff that affects the amygdala that touches your soul, that makes you sad, that go into those feelings. You start to get some of those feelings.
Ain't nobody gonna never show up for me. That's what I see a lot.
That's the triggers, right? You know what I'm saying? So like you start to get triggers from that, and that's a part of trauma. And trauma can be other stuff. Medical trauma. It's just so
Yeah.
many aspects. Trauma is holistic. Medical, psychological trauma, social trauma, growing up in the hood, gunshots, boom, boom, boom.
Right.
That's trauma too,
I've
right?
seen some people have trauma from being poor.
Yeah, being
From
poor,
being poor.
poverty is
Yeah,
a trauma.
poverty.
You know,
Yeah.
because it heightens the risk for all other traumas happening in your life. You know, poverty. You know, what I mean, probably go get some medical trauma. If you live in poverty, you go have some psychological trauma. It give you a mix of all of that.
Right. The
Poverty,
police
though.
thing with black people, the fact that if the police stop you, you might get shot. I mean,
Yeah,
that can be
correct. That's
traumatic
trauma,
to a lot
right?
of people
That's
because
trauma.
you don't feel safe.
Yeah.
Something that makes you just feel unsafe and you know,
And,
I'm not going to be okay.
and as I mentioned earlier, I know we don't talk about this part, but racial trauma.
Oh, definitely
Racial
trauma.
right? You know what I mean?
Definitely
Just
racial trauma.
historical racial trauma. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In terms of in racial trauma, just how it carries over to what goes on today.
Man, that's
So,
every day.
correct.
That's all the time.
Correct.
That's even now. I was talking about yesterday with the police. You know, the fact that our tax money goes to the police too. But when you call the police, they're really not trying to help you. It seems like they're trying to police you. They're just there to police the black people. Because when you call, you gotta, like when that thing happened to me, that drive by at my shop over there, I had ended up carrying a gun because the police wasn't trying to help me. They was like, help yourself. Okay. I'm just saying. That's, you can't go. That's like, I can't go to someone for help. I'm supposed to be able to go to the cops for help, but I can't go to them for help. So now I got to just try to figure out my way through it because that was definitely traumatic to me. That drive by.
Yeah, correct.
When you worried about it, you go get shot, and then that dude ended up killing somebody, and baby died, and all that crazy stuff. That was very traumatic to my whole family because we knew that guy. Right. But what did you say trauma is?
What trauma? Let me read this. It's a psychological trauma. It's it's emotional response.
Okay.
Caused by severe distressing event that outside our normal range of human experiences. Trauma is basically, just to add to what you have said, it's just how we respond to external events.
That's the most part.
Right? The stresses.
Yeah.
This is stressful. That the way I respond, to it can cause me to go in the state of trauma.
Okay.
Like you were saying about discrimination is one of the things. If I'm being discriminated against all the time, it becomes a psychological thing. I internalize that.
Right.
It becomes an internal thing. And that becomes a trauma. Yeah. Just like I always say, stress is, it's just an external. It's an external response to our stresses.
Right.
How we handle those stresses becomes the issue of a trauma. Divorce can be traumatic for people. Growing up, not having, having family members, especially male, going to prison. That can be traumatic for a child. Those are events that people begin to internalize,
right?
And that becomes a trauma thing.
And of course, sexual assault,
right.
Number one trauma that people automatically think about: physical abuse, sexual assault, neglect, unavailability. Your parents work 2 jobs, right? The way I seen it show up a lot with clients is that, well, number one, the expectations. I don't expect no one to treat me right. So sometimes I just choose whoever because my expectations are low, or just distrusting people. I'm marrying somebody, but I don't actually expect no one to be there for me because no one has ever showed up for me, and people may have showed up for this person, but because people who have experienced trauma are so sensitive to this, you not showing up for me. I'm not a priority. That's the way I mostly see it showing up in relationships. I'm not your priority. You don't priority. You don't care about me. You don't, I'm number 5 on your list. Like if it's priority, is you first, your mama, your parents, your sister, your siblings, and I'm probably number 8 on your list. And that might not be true, but they're so sensitive to, if you wasn't there one time, you won't ever be there.
And that's one of the things you have mentioned. That's that from childhood.
Yeah, it does.
You know what? I think I used this long time ago. I mean, when you're looking at child development, a child crying because of a wet diaper. Yeah. That child is looking for a response.
Right.
And if the parent doesn't respond, at some point that child stop crying.
Yeah.
And psychologically, what that child is experiencing is trauma,
Yeah.
saying nobody cares about me,
Right.
whether I have a need
Right.
met.
Exactly.
And that grows up as an adult. We see, we all ask for this assistance needs and they don't met.
Right.
Then I become something. That's why I
I
talk
can't go
about
to nobody.
I can't go to nobody if I
Right.
cannot
Nobody
trust.
don't care.
Right. If I can't trust my parents, why should I trust an outsider?
Right.
Because they betrayed me growing up. They were not there for me. So why how can an outsider be there for me
Right.
when the ones closest to me
Yeah, correct.
were not there for
Exactly.
me?
Right.
So that's distrust
Yeah.
all over the place.
Right.
Right.
It started from childhood and
Right.
those kind of stuff. And so that's why we have to address those what they call the ACEs,
Right.
which is childhood adverse childhood experiences.
Right.
How we experience, because that's the way we see life.
Right. That's where the
Anyway,
messages came
that's
from.
right.
Yeah.
That's how we
Right.
see life growing up.
That's what the trauma do too. Is messages. It changes
Yeah.
those messages.
True. True.
Ain't nobody there. Nobody sees me.
Yeah.
You're not available. Like that's why I see it a lot in clients.
Yeah.
When I hear clients with that,
Yeah.
I already can hear the trauma. You're not available. You don't care. You don't really like me. That's a big one too. You don't even like me.
Yeah.
And it could be true that the person is not acting like that, but it could also be high sensitivity
Yeah.
over time. You don't like me. You're not my friend. We're not.
Yeah.
I see that. That's the number one way I see it showing up in relationships is that the number one is you're not my priority. You're not there for me. You're not available. But that thing, it could be true, but that thing is so sensitive. It's been there since a child. It's been there. My mama wasn't there.
Yeah.
My daddy wasn't there. My daddy left. He ran off. He didn't. He said he was gonna come see me, like you said. He said he was gonna come back. He never came back. He said he was gonna come, and I was sitting on the porch waiting. He never came.
Right.
And so now I believe that nobody's gonna come. And so I continue to get in situations, and as soon as somebody don't do one thing, the message is so big.
The brain brings it back. Right. It happened a long time ago. It's repeating itself. This is real now. This becomes real.
Right.
So that creates mistrust.
Right. Mistrust and super sensitivity.
Right.
That wound is like so tender. It's like you just snatch that Band-Aid off. They put a little Band-Aid on it. You never dealt with it. They say, I've been healed. Oh, I'm over that. But they don't be over it. You could just see sore spots. If you could just see them and you had that doll and you just had that doll and you put a tack all over that doll would be full of tacks. Blood spots. You just put like blood spots over that doll, you would just see wounds all over their body. And so then a lot of emotional regulation, inability to regulate your emotions, screaming. Screaming all the time.
Top of your lungs.
Yeah, like can't nobody hear you when you screaming?
Tripping, man.
What is your point? I done had to tell people plenty of times. Do you know I can hear? I know I'm loud, but do you know I can hear at normal tone? So, but that's some of the ways. And then, just like he said, it's the trauma thing is response. Mm-hmm. It's not even necessarily the trauma, but it's really I say the messages, the messages that we begin to tell ourselves, like, oh, okay, I'm not good enough. I'm not. Why did my daddy didn't come? It was something about. It had to be something about me that my daddy chose. He had 5 kids. He dealt with 4, but he didn't want nothing to do with me. Yeah. Well, it's something wrong with me. I'm defective. Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Like why would he choose not to come back for me? I'm defective, or even mothers. But why wasn't I the favorite? Like what about me made me not the favorite? Yeah. There's something wrong with me. I had my client tell me that yesterday. There's something wrong with me to where if me and my friend are together and one guy every time the guy chooses her, we're the same size, we're about the same complexion, but the guy chooses her, there's always been something wrong with me. And I'm just like, I mean, that sounds crazy to another person, but people believe that deep within. So the message that we have, and so that's one thing that we have to change. So one thing, I don't know, I want to know, what have you ever did to help a client deal with trauma?
understand it, right?
Okay.
Just try to understand the trauma, like trying to find a place where it come from. You
Okay.
start to get some aha moments, like man, like we look at some generational stuff.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And, so we get some aha moments, like yeah, maybe so, right? In terms of once we start to look at the patterns and understanding the source of some of the trauma, and then we kind of go into some coping skills.
Okay. So
How do
checking
we
some
cope?
patterns,
Yeah,
checking some
checking the
patterns of
patterns.
behaviors, different times maybe in
Correct.
their life.
In their life, right? So,
Okay.
those
You
patterns.
had this in that marriage.
Yeah.
You had this in that
True.
relationship. If
True.
you was in the 8th grade, you was
True.
doing that. You didn't start this
Correct.
with this current
Exactly.
person you with. You in the 8th grade you were acting like
Correct.
that. In high school you spazzed out.
Correct.
You
Correct.
quit college because
Yeah.
but some patterns,
Yeah.
understanding some patterns. I
Yeah.
like that too. Understanding some patterns of behavior.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead.
And then she's right in terms of like we call it a counsel, they call it insight. We're trying
Yeah.
to build
Gain
insight.
some insights.
Trying to get the client some insight right there. And once we get the insight, they go into some trick. How to manage those triggers. How
Okay.
to self-talk will be big, right? Just trying
Okay.
how to fight it off. Like I think Dr. Shanette said, the messages, how to start to fight the messages off in your
Okay.
mind because they coming, but you got to have some. You got to be able to self-talk. Like, nah, I'm
Yeah.
tripping. Let me calm down, or me going to some mindfulness, how to be still, and how to be mindfulness and tell yourself to slow down when the triggers come sometimes
Right.
as well,
And
right?
slowing down the
Yeah.
impulsiveness too, the reactions to
Yeah,
the feelings that you're having, reacting to that, like
correct,
slowing
correct.
that down too.
Yeah, correct. You know what I mean? So just slowing,
Because
reaction.
impulsivity is one too.
Yeah, trying to slow the impulsivity down, right? Just trying to get some coping skills to slow that, so to breathe, right? On that what we call that physiological level.
Right.
But you got to manage that physiological.
There's a breathing app, y'all.
Correct.
Anyway,
You know
because
me.
I've been on the breathing app.
Correct, me too. Right.
Yeah.
So you got to manage the physiological because that what puts you in control first, and then trying to change the psychological.
So when you say physiology with your body, because
Your
I'm on
body.
that. Like whenever you can't slow your mind down, start with your body.
Correct.
Like start with your
Correct.
body, breathe. And that sounds crazy, but that box breathing works. And black people need to do it because there's a lot of studies on even that we die early.
Cortisol.
You know that we actually die early.
Correct. Cortisol.
Because we stay in a hypervigilant state.
Mm-hmm.
So y'all, we need to be breathing.
Breathing,
you
man.
need to teach your kids and everybody in your family to get at that table.
Diaphragmic. It works.
Start breathing.
Even
calm your body.
Correct. It works. Exercise. Just so.
Start with the body.
Correct. I'm saying she's right. Start with the body, then addressing the psychological. The triggers, how to manage those triggers, right? And sometimes it takes narration. Let's write about it, right?
Okay.
Let's narrate this trauma and let's change the story of it.
Okay.
Let's like what trying to get like the bad, but what good it gave.
Okay.
Trying to rewrite that story because sometimes we don't know. Like, it'd be parent to child trauma, like your mama, and like so trying to change the narrative about that story. Right.
Right.
It's another way I start to get people to address some of that trauma. And then the ultimate thing, especially if it's trauma of stuff like sexual abuse, where you so invoked and empowered that you can go, when you use that to go kind of change environments in terms of go talking to schools to little girls about, or to little boys about sexual abuse, just using that to empower others, using your trauma growth, we call it, the growing from the trauma, right?
Right,
so,
I like that. Grow from the trauma.
Exactly. So that's
help other people through it because it helps you when you're even talking about it.
Correct. So that's some of the ways I kind of talk to clients about addressing their trauma.
Okay. There you go, Dr. Rocco.
Well, I don't. I agree with what Dr. Gunner said. In addition to that, one of the things that I start with, I have to validate that emotion.
Okay.
Because when clients come to us, they want to get some kind of understanding that we understand where they're coming from.
Right. It makes sense.
Right.
Your reaction makes sense.
That's the reality to them.
Right.
And we have to validate that, Then also, I go further than that. I say, okay, we validate this and all that kind of thing. Because when trauma happens, we feel right, the emotions.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
emotions attached to that trauma. And so emotional regulation is one of those things. That's part of self-control too. Because I have to learn to regulate my
Right.
emotions. I have to understand that this is just emotion too. I restore. I
Allow yourself to feel,
right,
and don't and you know, slow down your reactions.
right,
Slow
right.
down you doing something. You don't. The old people told you, be still. Like don't do nothing. Like you can allow yourself to feel something
Right,
other than
right.
happy,
Yeah,
and realize that you don't have to react. And usually the quick reaction is usually the wrong reaction.
right.
Okay.
That's true.
Yeah.
You know, because
Always.
you
Yeah.
experience this thing in life, you feel angry.
Yeah.
Right, right.
The
Yeah.
quick reaction is the trauma response.
Yeah.
Right, it's a trauma
Right.
response.
Yeah.
I feel angry
Yeah.
and I can respond to that anger
Right.
in a
You
destructive
gave me a
way.
lot of
Right,
energy.
right,
You gave me a lot of
right.
energy to react,
It
but
can
I need to
create
sit down.
hatred. You know, I
Right.
think because this happened to me. You know, anger, and hatred comes with all that kind of thing.
And resentment.
Resentment,
Yeah,
right?
a lot of resentment.
And so that becomes part of it, and that translates also into relationship.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, correct.
right? You know,
All relationships.
all relationship,
All.
all that, you know.
Right.
So we have to kind of, like Dr. Garner said, narrative, you know. Let's change the story.
Yeah.
You know, not changing your reality.
We're not gonna keep this
Right,
pre-scripted story going.
right. But let's look at another aspect of it. You know,
Right.
can we go further than, because we want to change that negative emotions,
Right.
you know, and also build resilience.
Correct.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
So the whole thing about therapy is because you know when people come to therapy, they're going through some traumatic things in their lives and some discomfort.
Right.
And so
Or they just want to change, or they want to rewrite that story.
they want to do that to a more positive,
Right.
more, you know, more way, something that rather than controlling their life, they have more control
Right.
now.
Right.
You know, so that's the whole thing. So narratives, self-talk also. You know, there was a story. You know, I don't know. Most of you probably heard about it. It's a celebrity, multimillionaire, talks about growing up, and her father says she has this. Her father says something to her, kind of, you're not beautiful enough.
That's what?
That she's not beautiful.
Oh, okay.
enough.
She's not beautiful
Or
enough.
she have this flat nose.
Okay.
And that, you know, that lived with her for a long, long time until she was able to talk about it.
Okay.
Even though she has all the money, she has all the things, but that stuck to her that she's not beautiful.
Flat nose. You
That's
beautiful, you got a
flat
nose.
nose, right? You know, so like I said, all these things start from childhood.
Like the message.
The message we get.
You're not beautiful.
Right. And we just internalize that.
Right.
And so anything that will happen, then we go back to it. They told me that before. So it becomes my reality. You know, just like they said, you know, someone come to you, I'm not beautiful, but there's something wrong with me.
Right.
She didn't just, you know, she's had that all along, all her life. Just like Dr. Gardner said, it's a pattern. You know, I begin to hear that all the time, and I believe it.
Right.
Oh yeah. Oh,
yeah.
It's that message.
It's that message again. I believe that message. You know, so we have to change that message.
Yeah. Right.
I like that. Deal with the message.
Yeah,
because the messages, it's not necessarily the trauma that happened is the problem. It's the messages that you gain from that, and then you begin to react based on those messages. Right. You know, regulate your emotions based on those messages, because those messages are so strong and so intense, and it's really hard to do it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's really hard to do something new.
It takes work.
Because one thing about chaos, one thing about trauma is a lot of people who experience trauma are used to chaos.
Correct.
And they continue to cause the chaos in their own life. Just hang it up.
And that's the you know,
put the red button.
we go into some defense mechanisms, right? You know what I mean? Like, you know, they start to use these defense mechanisms, right? Rationalization, right? You know what I mean? Projection, blaming, right? You know what I mean? All of them become them responses sometimes because that's what makes them comfortable.
So the messages and the responses, that's what's really important too.
You know, so it's we can't say the bad response still make you comfortable sometimes. Right. You're so used to making that response.
Right, it's easy.
Yeah, exactly.
Quick.
So it kind of feels a need, but you got to know, like, you know what I mean, the impact that it had, it don't get better really, but you got the bad response. So I think just kind of using professionals to come like let's get a good let's change the response, right?
Right.
Let's change the response, so
Right.
And those messages becomes, I believe, core belief.
correct,
Right.
correct, core.
You
Right.
know?
You forget about your real core.
Right.
You
People can't
forget
even
about
talk
your
you
real
out of
core.
it.
It becomes a big core belief, and that's where I think that.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why I also like cognitive therapy.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm dealing with your beliefs,
the core beliefs.
Exactly.
Dealing with those messages and
the
Exactly.
messages, right?
Yeah.
And I was telling y'all before, one thing I do with that when people have these messages is because they're so intense and they fight to keep that message. And so I just say, I'm not gonna argue with people in counseling, and I don't. I just say, well, what if you were to fight for your relief? What if
Yeah,
you were to fight for this new story instead of you fighting to keep this message?
Uh-huh.
Because I mean, if I say something to you, you defend this message.
Uh-huh.
But what if you were to fight for the new story?
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
What would you do now if you were to fight for the new story? Because I'm not gonna fight against you.
No.
I'm not gonna do it.
Mm-hmm.
But what if you were to fight for something else? I know it's hard because it is really, really hard to do something new. Because as a therapist, I'm sure y'all do it too. Like people expect us sometimes to be perfect or whatever. I don't know, like they do pastors. We're not perfect,
No,
but I do therapy. Yeah, exactly. I do therapy on myself because I try the techniques on me, and then I see how they work, and sometimes it's really tough. And then as they work with me, I can not only write about it, but I can tell somebody, I can kind of help somebody walk them through how to do it. But I do it on myself first, and don't make me perfect. I'm still flawed, trust me.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know some things work because I've tried them on myself. In particular, the trauma stuff, I've been working on myself with it. Like if I can't stop my thoughts from trying to hunt me, then I go with my body. I relax my body. I'll take me a hot bath. I'll put me a bath bead in there. Relax. I'll get me a massage, or go to the gym, or you just sit, sit with music. Of course, I love to dance, so I'll go dancing. But I'll do things to get it out of my body. I'll release the tension and the stress in my body. Because whenever your mind is stressing, and it's really important for us to know, when your mind is stressing, your body is stressing. And that's where a lot of that high blood pressure is coming from.
You know what I'm saying? Another thing they don't really tell us, like, hey, man, how the psychological affects the physical. We are, they kind of vice versa sometimes. The physical can affect the psychological, but definitely that psychological can affect the physical, right? Ulcers, all kind of stuff that stress can bring, right? And poor responses can bring. So
especially gastro problems.
Yeah, a lot of stomach
stomach cold and all of that.
True, you know what I mean? Even for myself, right? You know what I mean? I had to go to therapy myself to address, get that trauma out of me, right?
Yeah.
Go kind of not get it out, but go learn to deal with it.
I'm trying to find one now.
Yeah, you're
through my insurance, because I think that therapists too,
you
we need to be in there.
Right?
It's too much.
Yeah, definitely. And so, after I finished, hey, I got a spark. I want to redo therapy again, right? I took a break from doing some therapy work.
Yeah.
And just to kind of go deal with my stuff, and it just kind of makes you, if you go, and I tell a lot of my students that you go learn your own self-awareness, right? It makes you a better professional in terms of, in terms of all that. Dealing with trauma makes you a better professional. Your emotional intelligence start to grow. You just start to be free of stuff. Your communication get better. Your assertiveness get better. So that topic of trauma, man, we definitely got to push it, and people really got to start to address that.
Right.
And that has to do also with what they call the self-discovery.
Okay. Self-discovery.
Self-awareness. Yes.
Right. Self-awareness.
Right. So when people come to therapy, just like you mentioned, it's not about arguing with the client. It's just about, one thing I say, if what you're doing now works for you, then continue to do it. But if it doesn't work for you, we need to look at the alternative, a new narrative now.
Right.
Why don't you just try?
Right.
Because right. Because your narrative is not working for you. All that deflection and rationalizing, it's not working for you.
Right.
That's why you were here.
Correct.
Right.
Right. Then you want to argue with me. But I'm not about to argue with you. And if I do argue with you, you're paying me to argue with me. But go ahead. Look. You think you should pay me to argue with me? Go ahead.
Then also, like you mentioned, Dr. Gunner, about so many health issues are related to also those ACEs.
Yeah. Oh my
Right.
God,
Because
definitely.
when we have
Even
this right,
autoimmune
right,
diseases in
Everything.
black people.
right, right,
Autoimmune
Yeah,
diseases live in us. They're already
right.
there.
true.
And all we need to do is continue to
Yeah,
be
man.
stressed out, our inability to uh, regulate our emotions,
Right.
holding on to resentments. And a lot of resentments are trauma responses. Not
Yeah.
all of them, but a lot of them are, because a lot of resentments are overreactions
Mm-hmm.
to other things. You
And
know what I'm saying?
all those things affect
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
immune
Right. It
system.
go all there. Right.
It breaks it down. It
Right.
breaks the immune system.
Lupus, not
Right,
all
right.
lupus, but a lot of lupus can be woken up through stress,
Stress,
inability to
Right.
regulate your emotions, impulsivity. And
Right.
impulsivity don't have to be actual actions. The impulsivity can
inside.
be internal,
There's a lot of
right?
internal
Internal
effort,
impulsiveness.
man.
Right. I even got a new thing I've been doing lately, because part of dealing with, so we'll talk about dealing with trauma. How do you, like, what do we actually do about it? So one thing that, because one of the biggest things that problems they was having, like I was saying, in trauma, with the trauma in relationships, is inability to trust to a person to care for them, inability to believe that someone will care for them, inability to believe that they're worth being cared for, inability to believe that someone will show up for them or even ask. Most people won't ask. That be the issue. They won't
Right.
ask somebody to show up. Their ideal is, well, if you love me and you care about me, you will pay attention to me and you will know. I hear that all day.
Mm-hmm.
That's not reality. The world is too busy and too much going on. Nobody don't have time to just notice what you need. But so that's one thing I do. I have that with clients. I say, teaching them how to say, I feel whatever I feel. I feel anxious. I think that I'm not your priority. Everybody else is more important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And what I need today, right now, is I ask you to come to the store with me, and I need you to do it. Like, I mean, you need to literally help people show up for you. And you can't force them, and sometimes the answer will be no.
Right.
But at least, and then you can even go further. If they say no, you say, well, the message that I'm getting, and if you don't care, you don't care. But the message that I'm getting is that you don't care about me, and you don't have any time for me.
And that can be
Go
also
a little, stretch out a little bit to help them. But
right.
I've done it myself. So I've been doing it myself now for about I've been doing it with people that I'm really close to. I've been doing it for about a year, and I've been most of the time people do it. Most of the time people actually show up, and I had always developed this ideal that people didn't want to show up for a really long time. But I noticed now that when I actually, like, I'll go extra mile. Like, I spend, I only have a few people in my life that I'm really close to. Like, I'm close to you, and I show up for you. I expect it back. Right now, I need you to give me what I give you. And most of the time they do it. But what was you gonna say about that? Just the teaching people to actually, try to help people to show up for you. Try to help them. Don't stop letting people off the hook. And then what I get from a lot of people is, well, I'm not gonna beg people. Well, if they're in that position in your life anyway, that's what they're supposed to do.
Right. One of the things is that, like I said, action is one of the uh, difficult things for a lot of people to do because they've been turned down so many times. They've been rejected so many times.
Right.
And so again, they internalize it. Why, this person, if I ask, it's not going to do it anyway. She's not going to do it anyway. Right. How do you know? You haven't asked this particular person, but you're reacting to previous
the message,
especially
right.
The messages
no
you have, right? You already internalize, the messages,
Right.
So I always ask, and also one thing I try to explain to people is that you can't get yes all the time.
Right, they ain't gonna say yeah all the time.
Just like I have the choice of saying no or yes.
Right.
For a lot of people, for some people, it's difficult to say no. It used to be, that used to be my setback because I want to satisfy everybody.
Right, right. You can't overdo it.
Right, neglecting my own needs.
Right,
I have an appointment, or I have somewhere to go. Then somebody says,
"Well, yes all the time."
Right, it's gonna be yes. So understanding that the other person also has the right to say no.
Right, and some people
you have the right to say no.
Right, and then ask people when you know they can do it too. Don't just be asking people stuff that you don't. I mean, when I'm saying I'm asking people that I know they can do it. You know, I'm not gonna ask a person for $10,000. I'm just saying I'm gonna
Right.
ask them for something that I know that they had the time to do, they're available to do it, they can do it if they want to do. You know, I'm making sure that I use my discernment when asking, but also I'm recognizing too that I just want more often than not.
Mhm.
It can be, they don't have to be perfect because people cannot be perfect. And a lot of people, and that's that over, you know, that's oversensitivity, expecting people to be perfect, to show up for you every time.
Every
Like
time,
that's
right.
not reality because sometimes people got to
That's
show up for themselves.
right.
And then you need to be the person too that you expect.
Mhm.
Because that's what I see with a lot of people. They want to give these people all their time. They want to come to you when they need something. No, you need to give to the people who you expected to give to you. You need to be a mutual.
Correct.
It need to be mutual. And ain't nobody stupid. Like if you're not the person who there for me and you come asking me for something, that pisses me off. I'm like, why would you ask me though? I haven't talked to you for 3 months. No, that's not what you do. You need to give back. You need to choose a few people in your life who you can prioritize and who will also prioritize you. Not just any and everybody. You want to give all your money to Beyonce, go to the concert, you don't even know her. But when you need something, you want to go to. But anyway, so that's okay. Another thing I was gonna say. Let me see. As I wrote some stuff down. Oh yeah, learning to live in the moment is part of it too.
Right.
Part of you know, healing. Well, they got a thing. I'll say this one first. Secure functioning has a thing, daily hug, and this is for couples, for you know, relationships, and I even think it could be for kids too, parents and children. But a daily hug, and this daily hug is not like a side hug. This daily hug is a check in. Like this leads to healing. It's a check in. It's hey, I see you. You know, when you come home, I see you. I stop what I'm doing, put my phone down, turn, you know, get away from the TV or whatever, and I see you. It's like because like a lot of people drive around their house and they don't even want to go home because they know every time they go home it's drama, it's this. But you know what? When you come home, we leave all that out and we just connect for 3 to 5 minutes with each other. And a lot of people won't do that. They won't prioritize that. And I'm starting to tell people if you don't have 3 to 5 minutes for your spouse or your partner or whoever you're dealing with, maybe you shouldn't be with them. I mean, if you cannot prioritize 3 to 5 minutes to do a check-in, hey, I see you. Damn, you still here? Most people would have left me. You still here after 15 years, 16 years? You're still here after 5 years, 3 years? You know, you're still here. I see you. It's almost like when a dog come up to you. When you come home and you got a dog, that dog run up to you. Hey, 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 hey! I love you. I love you. I love you. But I mean, partners need to see that somebody you did all this. You worked hard all day. You did all these things all day. You faced the world. You know, now you're here, and I see you. I notice you. And to me, I mean, some of the stuff, some of the white people stuff they came up with to me sometimes be seeming kind of crazy, but it worked. I'm just saying, it worked.
But then it don't be there. They done got it from us. They just done twisted it, right?
Yeah.
It don't even be there, right? You know, because like that's more of an Afrocentric terminology.
Yeah.
That question, you know what I mean? An African family still say, if you go to Africa, they say, "I see you."
Yeah,
they still say that, right? How are you in the family, right?
They really
don't,
do.
you know what I mean? Because of the collectiveness of it, right?
Yeah.
So you know,
That's
true,
true,
like,
though.
so I see you. They say that like, "Hey, I see you," right? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So they tell you, and so we got to tell each other that. You're right, correct.
So that's one thing. So y'all remember that secure functioning principle. A hug, welcome home hug. That's what it's called. The same like the dog do you when you come home. You need to do it to your partner so that when they come home, they know that somebody is going to pay attention to them. Even if you was on your phone for the rest of the day, for them 3 or 5 minutes, you checked in with me. You check my body temperature. It's not like I said a little quick side hug. Is you check my body temperature. You check to make sure I'm okay. You check to make sure that I'm still alive. If I needed to tell you something, you check that. Hey, oh, you're here. I can tell you. I can share something with you or whatever it is. I'm not busy. I'm available. So anyway, it starts to change that narrative, that message that no one is available. It begins to change that. It begins to heal each other. So that's a healing thing. So that's one thing that I can
another thing is also in line with what you just said. You know, a couple can set aside maybe 5 minutes every day.
Uh-huh.
So when they come, you know, say, "How was your day?"
Yeah.
Let's talk about how your day went.
Right.
There is acknowledging that you're there. I care about you.
Right.
I want to understand when you know how your day went. You
right.
know, and So having that routine every day, maybe just 5 minutes, it's just like I mentioned, it's validating that I'm there.
Right,
You know.
right.
But you said, but like in terms of like that conversation, he said it's good to have them heart to hearts, but don't always go with the negative, right? You
Right,
know what I
right.
mean?
No, this
Like
is supposed to be
you know
positive
what I mean?
though.
Go what's positive,
No,
right?
this is supposed to be
Go
positive.
have a positive conversation. Don't if you always going with the woe is me,
Yeah, you don't even
your
want to hug them.
spouse they gonna get tired, man.
They
Like
don't want to
you know what I
check
mean?
in.
Like you going year after year with the woe is me, and you
Yeah,
ain't got nothing going on. Like you need to go seek. You know, so you probably need to go seek some help. You know what I mean?
exactly.
You need to go with positive energy because the energy will flow. If you go with negative energy, that
Right,
negative energy go flow. So just
right.
in terms of those check-ins, man,
Yeah,
those heart to heart, you know what I mean? Like, you know, even kids and parents should have heart to heart smart talks,
yeah,
right?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, 2, 3 minutes we forget. You know,
yeah. That's all
especially
it is.
because we're not at the dinner table
Right,
anymore, so we're kind of moving fast. I think them, ride from school from home, them heart to heart smart
right,
talks, right? What's going on? And we shouldn't be quiet. They shouldn't have on their headphones. You should make them pull out their headphone and have a conversation about what went on in school. You know what I mean? How you doing? What the grades look like? You know what I
right,
mean? What's about your social life? You know what I mean? Is there a football game?
right.
Just parents got to have questions, back pocket questions, so they can start to facilitate those conversations. Because most kids sitting in the back of the car with their
Right, with their
headphones
things, yeah.
on, like and nobody communicating anymore, right? And you learn
Right.
so much through that communication.
But I like what you said with that check-in because it should be positive. Like for the most part, this check-in needs to be positive because I mean, if it's constant negativity, that's hard. And like you said, and sometimes if it's keep being negative, you need to seek a counselor because it's not our partners need to be there for us, but they're not everything. They're
Yeah,
not God.
correct.
You know, we need to have friends, we need to have mentors, we need to have church, we need to have
Yeah, yeah,
counseling other people,
yeah.
but because our partners can't be like
Mm,
all everything.
mm.
Your God, your Jesus, your
Husband,
yeah, I can't be sick with that song lawyer in the
therapist,
courtroom and
lawyer.
yeah, lawyer in the courtroom and
Yeah,
doctor in the sick room and
you
I
in
can't be
school,
there.
he a tutor. You know what I
I can't
mean?
be all them
Right.
things.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
what it's about in community. You
yeah,
know, when I say community doesn't, it's not like you said, it's not just your spouse, but also positive friends.
Yeah,
yeah,
That you can talk to. Some of those things going on. Like I said, you have to choose your friends. The
right,
ones that are positive,
yeah.
not the
right.
ones that,
And
oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
tell
got
you
this
what.
drama I can talk to you about. you
Right,
know.
right. So some other stuff I put on my thing is I was saying that living in the moment, part of living in the now, because that's part of trauma is I'm stuck in a message.
yeah,
I'm stuck
Right.
in
right
a
now,
past message.
yeah,
So even right now, I tell myself if I get to tripping with some negative stuff, I tell myself I got everything I need today. I literally do. I tell
correct,
myself
correct,
I got
correct,
everything I need today, and everything is okay.
yeah, correct,
So cut the drama. I talk to myself like that,
correct,
like
correct.
today I have everything I need. And so it's just like learning to, that message is a lot of times that trauma message is an old message. That's how things were
Yeah,
and
right.
not just how things are. We need to revisit that message,
Yes, definitely.
you know?
Revisit it. But our goal is not to let you stay in the past on that, right?
Right,
Right.
But also, I get to early on we can address it, we can talk
right.
about it, but eventually we got to get to the
To the
point.
here.
Hey, how did that affect you now?
Right,
I want to be in the here. We got to be in the here and now, right?
right,
We done kind of dealt with some of that historical stuff. Let's go to the here and now. How does it affect you now? The coping
right,
skills for now, right? You know what I mean?
right,
So, how can we treat that from now? How's it affecting you? Number one, you got all or nothing thinking, right?
right,
You black and white thinking, or
right.
you catastrophize so much stuff. You know what I mean? It could be a little thing, and you just
You
blow.
Hurricane Harvey.
You're right. So just trying to, I call them mind traps, right? You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Blame trap, right? All
yeah.
you go
Oh,
into these
that's a big one with the couples that blame
yeah,
trap.
yeah, mind trap. They're all mind
Yeah,
traps, and just learning to trying to disrupt that cycle of mind traps.
yeah,
Right? Let's stop. Let's think about it. Let's hear another perspective. You know what I mean? Another ideal about that similar issue,
Right.
so you can start making, so you can start to deal.
I like that, the blame trap.
Yeah, the
'Cause
blame
a lot
trap.
of couples get in there, the blame
The
trap.
mind
And that
trap,
blame trap don't
that
get you
could
nowhere.
they black or white. It's either this or that, but a lot of stuff not black or white in relationships, right? You know what I mean? So, like, or it's all or nothing thinking. It's so many mind traps that people go into. They catastrophize stuff. So, you know what I mean? Just trying to disrupt that. Then you get to thinking now. Let's get a replacement thought, right?
Right, because then it's a trap if you keep on every time you get in the conversation, you back to that same thing.
Exactly.
You trapped.
You trapped, right? So so trying to address that, reframe that. Like I think it was Rocco said that cognitive work, right? Just trying to, change them beliefs, change them thoughts about them situations, so you could, be, you start to get healthy that way. You start to deal with it and make better decisions that way.
Right, and remember that your health depends on it. Because a lot of people in this, especially with relationships, they think they're doing someone else a favor. When you are moving towards healing, you are doing something for yourself. You're doing something for your your health. You're doing something for your children. You're teaching your children something different, like how to regulate different, how not to be impulsive, and how to make better decisions. So don't think you're doing it for your partner. I don't want to do it. You're not doing somebody a favor. You're doing yourself a favor when you're moving towards healing. You're not doing somebody else a favor.
True.
You do it for you. Be selfish. You do it for yourself. Then everybody around you will benefit.
Because you impact.
Starts a new pattern.
And I think you mentioned you start to impact your legacy. They see. They see you too, right? They see you. They making changes. Mom making changes. Dad making them adjustments. We all kind of thrive, and that energy throughout that house start to change, right? You know what I mean? You start to addressing that generational trauma, man. Like you can, it just changes. It can change. It can change a legacy for a lifetime.
Yeah.
Right. You know what I mean?
Right. You healing changes your legacy. So don't think you're doing somebody a favor, because that's people's biggest thing. I ain't gonna be begging nobody. Yeah. I ain't gonna be okay. Well, then you ain't gonna heal.
I mean, if you're looking for, one of the things I tell, if you're looking for change, started with you.
Yeah, started with you, man.
Where you get
the change starts with you, right?
It's a trap, like he said. It's a mind trap when you try to change somebody else. Yeah, well, they need if they do this, if they do that, that's a mind trap. Yeah. You ain't getting nowhere.
Because once they see the changes in you,
I think the other person trap in this room.
Right, it's just synergy.
Right.
I start to see those changes.
They
gotta change too.
Right, they gotta change right now.
You can just do it. You can see it. They gotta change
because they're gonna respond to your change.
Right.
Exactly.
You don't have to work hard to change somebody else.
You don't gotta brag about it. You don't gotta be you see I'm changing. You see I'm changing. No, you just straight action oriented. You got your action going on. They gonna see and the energy behind it. Everybody gonna get to make it because it's a positive change.
Right, and because people be doing that to me. Well, how can I go to counseling and my partner's not going to counseling? Because you're going for yourself.
Exactly. You start the energy. They gonna see, and then they gonna want to go too.
When they see a change,
they gonna want to go too.
They don't believe in.
They ain't gonna tell you. I've seen some changes.
What's going on? I might need to go to therapy, right? You know what I mean? Like that stuff. You start to insight, man. You start to see some of that stuff.
So just think of mind when you start thinking about the other person changing. Your mind is trapped. You in the trap. You're not gonna get anywhere. You just trapped like a mouse on a mouse trap. You know what I'm saying? Because you're not gonna get anywhere. They're not even gonna listen to you tell them how to change.
I tell people the only thing you can change is you. You can't change it.
And it's hard to change you.
That's hard work.
All that stuff.
You're gonna do that for the rest of your life.
All that stuff built up into your cognitive complexity, man. All that stuff trying to make some adjustments. Like the stuff we talking about. I know it seems like we talking about it easy, but it's not easy work, man. That's why. Like therapists gotta be paid. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, people don't want to really pay for therapy, man. You address that. It's one of the best gifts you buy in your life, man.
It really is.
You know what I mean? Just address some of that stuff, free your mind, like, you know what I mean? Unslave your mind.
And the great thing about a therapist, you can tell a therapist.
But you can't go to anybody.
Right, not anybody. But when you trust one, and when you find one that you connect with and that's for you, and you can tell that person is for you, you can tell them anything, and like that's one person you can pour your whole soul out to because they can't tell your business, and if they tell your business, they're gonna lose their license that it took literally 10 years to get. And if anybody put their license on the line, they must be crazy. You know what I'm saying? Look, I'm just saying. Well, you gotta.
Yeah, I got my AC went out in my
Oh,
house,
okay.
so I
So,
got AC
we're
making for 4 o'clock.
oh, okay.
So
So we're signing off here. You know, but I hope y'all get something out of how trauma affects the
right.
relationships and different, from different angles, from different perspectives. I'm still working on this with my clients for the next 2 weeks, so we'll talk about other stuff. But I'm still digging into this trauma thing because it's really making a difference in a lot of my clients' life.
Yeah,
Like
man. So
dealing with the trauma, that's like dealing with the root. Like you were saying, that's
yeah,
dealing with the root of the problem.
yeah. So
You
yeah,
know.
it was the root, right?
Yeah, because a
Yeah,
lot of
so
times it ain't the problem that it look like. It's not the problem that they're presenting to me. It's the trauma that's the issue. You know what I'm saying?
You got some. So if if you somebody who want to deal with some of that trauma, like Jeanette, I don't know if you get no office number. I don't see maybe
I
just
don't because I don't. People who know me
I
personally
know
cannot
they
come
can
to me, but they
call.
can
They
come
can
to
call.
yeah.
You
They
know me call. Maybe have a
put
couple
your
sessions.
information out there,
Yeah, okay, I will. You know what I
especially
mean.
for
So
men. Go ahead.
yeah, so just if you trying to look for therapist, just 713-741-2400, right?
Y'all heard that? 713 741
741-2400.
2400.
Like send
Dr. Garner.
your husbands or your boyfriends or your
And we
sons,
trying to do
what I
group,
mean?
y'all.
Group work, what I mean? Just trying to, just trying to make an impact there. Just experience, a lot of experience, right? Just, what I mean? So it's a lot of experience. Now, talking like I mentioned earlier, you can't just choose any therapist, and sometimes they hustling.
And talking to us ain't like talking to y'all friend like y'all think it is. It's not. It's clinical.
It's not,
People like,
you address
oh,
it.
you do marriage counseling, you're married. It's not about me being married. It's
Yeah.
about me being a clinical
You
therapist,
train,
a clinical trained person, right?
So, okay.
Okay. Then or come see Dr. Rocco. If y'all want to see Dr. Rocco, send me your text, DM me, and I'll give you his
Especially,
information.
we want to start doing a group.
Yes. Want to do men's group. Men's group. And y'all need it, whether you think it or not.
So
mentorship.
come by, call
Therapy.
Dr. Jackson, and let's get together and talk about issues that we need to address, not the other person.
Even women, right? Women want to kind of get their own group going. Definitely address some of that, trauma that a lot of women have had as well. So, we just kind of want to, we prefer to kind of maybe have them separate. They may come together sometimes.
Right, we'll have them separate, and then we get enough people, we'll come together like every 3 weeks.
We just come together, right?
You know what I'm saying?
Have these conversations because, like, all that kind of like group work works, right?
Yeah, that's where it is.
Group work
That's
works.
really where it is.
It normalizes. You'll see, you get the feeling like you're not alone, right?
Right.
You start to normalize a lot of situations in groups. So, okay.
Okay. See y'all later. All right.
My AC went out.
Yeah, you see, guys, this AC, we're always tripping.
Yeah, summer.